As the capitalist machine twists its knife deeper into Mother Nature's back, many who take part in its deadly profits by plucking resources at will turn a blind eye as they follow the path to success and affirmation. Our hope is in the few who wake up and see the light, stepping in to draw their swords in battle for liberation. Cody Requejo has become a guardian of the sea. After years showing his respect for its bounty from the business side of a sushi counter, he decided to take a step towards change, committing his life to being part of the solution by educating society on the necessity of sustainable farming to quell a growing demand for fish. Today on COCINA Pirata Podcast, Cody joins me to discuss his work with Pacifico Aquaculture and what it takes to challenge a market driven by greed to create a sustainable future for our planet.
Contra la muerte, nosotros demandamos vida. Contra el silencio, exigimos la palabra y el respeto. Contra el olvido, la memoria. Contra la humillación y el desprecio, la dignidad. Contra la opresión, la rebeldía. Contra la esclavitud, la libertad. Contra la imposición, la democracia. Y contra el crimen, la justicia.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you, dude.
It's good to see you too. It's been way too long. You're up there in the thick of it up there. No?
I am. I'm hoping that things are turning around for us because it's been, I think I'm like you. I'm a kinetic person. I got to keep moving and it's being in my house and being in my room and doing stuff on the computer is just not. I don't think I was built for it. No, I know I'm not built for it.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Mexico since last March, which
no
is
way.
I don't want to live this way anymore.
Yeah.
So this has been rough, man, for a guy like myself. And I think for my kid too, and my wife. Like, I think we're just people that need to be out and travel. And we went to Mexico. We went to Los Cabos in December, which was great. But I haven't been down to Baja really since last March.
Yeah, and you're not even that far away from there. It's just a pain in the ass to get across the border, huh?
It's not. Pacifico doesn't want any more issues any people in the company to get like sick on their dime. When I'm like, I'm more than willing to go down to Mexico at any time you say, but there's a chance I might go in a couple weeks.
Sick.
Things are starting to lax here and lax down in Baja as well. And I just bought a new surfboard, so I'm hopefully to go test it. I just got it yesterday, and of course it rained here in Huntington Beach. New board curse, but I need to get down there. And of course James, my old business partner and really good friend, is down there in Ensenada. Took his boat down there.
I know, he's fucking living the life.
Dude,
I was supposed to talk to him on Friday, and he was like, "Yo, bro, weather cleared. I'm taking off on my boat, so we're gonna have to reschedule for a couple weeks." I was like, "No worries at all, brother. Go enjoy that life." I'm actually. I don't know if I told you yet, but I'm moving. Me and my wife are moving to Baja in the fall, so we'll be a little bit closer. So, the whole gang will be together.
I kind of wanted to ask, like, what are you planning to do? And I don't know if it's like on the DL, but what are you gonna go do? Like, what's the next movement for your thing?
So no, none of it's on the DL. I'm cool to share everything all the time. And actually, we just made some announcements. So the reality is that during COVID, all over Mexico, not specifically just Puerto Escondido, but many of the coastal places, and as has historically been the case, are affected by mass migrations of human beings who want to enjoy cheap things and not really put a lot of effort into the space. So Puerto Escondido has blown up a little bit too much for us, and because we just had a kid, we want to move somewhere that's a little bit more in line with what we're interested in, just the way we're interested in living. And so, you know, we will continue to have the nonprofit that we have down there called De La Costa. My wife has a hotel and hostel in Puerto Escondido, and I'm opening up a new project inside her hotel down there it's called Milpa, Tacos de la Tierra, which is like plant-based tacos. And then when we moved to, we're looking at Todos Santos, Pescadero, Cerritos, this area. And I talked with Javier, and he said this is a beautiful place, and there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of farms and a lot of conscious people, which I'm really hyped on and I need in my life. And so the plan is to just go there and start with this taco concept, Milpa, and then eventually dig in some roots for Pirata, my tasting menu concept. But really just a change of scenery, and of course we have new life with us, and so we want to raise the young man in a place that's a little bit less party and a little bit more focused on life and community. So have you spent much time in that area?
I love, dude. So James and I, back in the day, we would, on the way to La Paz, which was our farm, the Campachi farm we would go to pass through and hang out in Todos Santos and surf Cerritos, which is, I think we got like 2 great days of waves in Cerritos. And actually when we went to Los Cabos, I had my wife and my child and our friends, and I said, we need to go to Todos Santos today. So we spent the whole day in Todos Santos. Of course, we went to Yazamango.
Yeah.
And had dinner, which was lunch, which was incredible. Also, James and I did the 1-year anniversary party at Yazamango.
Okay.
And Javier, how he throws a really good party. It was one of the best parties we've ever been. I mean, I went till like 2 in the morning. The guy really knows what he's doing, because every hour there was something new as far as like entertainment or a band. He had the what are those guys? They wear the luchadora masks and the surf band.
I haven't heard of that band.
It was so fun. So we had like a little stand where I was like, doing like sashimis and a la minutes, and everyone had their own like little food stand. Of course, the Tatanka chef was there, and Chef Yvonne from now at Comal in Chileno Bay was there, and we just did our own thing. And then of course, our things closed down. So now we went to like in the middle of like the party, I guess, quote unquote. And everyone's drinking mezcal and partying. And then we just started doing an after hours kind of event. I still had fish left, and someone else still had, tortillas. And we just started doing this really cool thing, which happens a lot in Mexico, and especially at Javier's parties. And we partied there until like, I think at least 3 or 4 in the morning, thinking we had lodging, because Javi said, hey, just come and hang out. We'll get you a hotel. There's no rooms. So they literally gave like the gal that ran that was like, here's a bottle of wine or 2 couple bottles of wine. Here's some weed. Here's some papers. Here's a lighter. That's really all we can do for you guys. And James and I were like, slept in a rental car, like on the beach, and then got up in the morning and surfed. And then that was just one day. And then we found out one night that there was a band out of La Paz that was playing at Todos Santos. So we went to this bar and we stayed there. We shut this bar down to like 2 or 3 in the morning and partied all night. We didn't have a hotel room booked that night, but we snuck into our room that we had the night before through like the window and slept there until 6 in the morning. And then like booked out of there before the room service came, or maid came to make our room up. So many great nights in Todos Santos. I gotta be honest, man, that's one of my most favorite cities. And I think just the times that I had in Todos Santos, there's so many good memories and so much good food. And so I had my American friends with me when we were in Los Cabos, and we just found like this carnitas like restaurant. Mm-hmm. And it's some of the best carnitas we ever had. It was one of those moments that you have in Mexico where you have you're hungry, but you don't know much. So we're just like, well, let's just go in that place and have a couple of beers and see what kind of food they had. And they had like some of the most badass carnitas I've ever had in my life. And that's Mexico to me. And that's Todos Santos. You can just go anywhere. And
yeah, one of the reasons I'm excited to get to Baja is like I lived in LA for 5 years, I think, and I never went to Baja. I never even went to Tijuana, and I was just working too much. Wow. And so last year at Valle Food and Wine Festival, that was the first experience I had in Baja, and we actually drove before down into the Sea of Cortez, San Felipe, Bahia de Los Angeles, and these kind of places. And then coming back to Valle, it's like listening to you talk about Javi's party planning committee, like the
You were
life.
there, remember?
Yeah.
Animal
The,
Love?
yeah, the
Legendary.
exactly, but that's what's so beautiful. I feel like that's life in Baja. Like life in Baja is a little bit less serious and a little bit more about living, and that's really what I'm interested in. That's why I'm interested in that vibe there, and just to be close to you guys. You know, like the stuff that you guys are doing is really inspiring to me, and I want to be around people who are really motivated to push that. In being in a place like that and around guys like you, I can better serve the coast of Oaxaca with skill sets that I take away and knowledge that I gain, no, through practice. So
Yeah, I feel like there's something about the energy and how infectious it is, and it's calling to me daily. Like I feel it. I feel my shoulders getting like weighed down by this life that, you know, and I live at the beach. I've got nothing to complain about. I didn't set myself up like James did as far as life, living on a boat and having low overhead, but I bought, you know, a really nice house. I'm less than a mile from the beach. I lived the dream.
yeah.
But this COVID has put me in this box of being on my computer and helping out Pacifico. And it's not, I came to Pacifico to do, my mission was to be in a sustainable, focused job. And that's something that to me resonates more down in Baja than it does here in LA. I'm still 36 miles away from a huge metropolitan city with issues that are just stacked on stacked on stacked. That just is depressing, but it gets to you. Now, when you go down to Baja and you get around that lifestyle, it makes you think, like, what are we all doing here? What does that life offer up here in LA in this fast freeway 405 life? Why is that more successful than that down south? That makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
As far as food, cuisine, overall general life feel, and just the connection. You get more connected to the ocean. And I think I see it in you. Like I'm actually, I can be honest, I apologize. The first time we met on a boat going to the farm, and I was put there to really like be a liaison for Javi and really take care of Javi and be in Javi's, because that was his first time to the farm. And by the time we hung out, I was like, man, I missed this opportunity to connect with. And then once I really found out what you were doing, I was like, and nothing to take from Javi, but this is what we need, right? We need more young people to like feel like that's more important down there.
Yeah.
And to resonate with like the land and the sea and the sustainable focus and all that. That's, to me, I hope that's more of the future. And that's where people are going to go, like getting out of LA or the United States and going down there and really making connection with the people and the land and like the ocean. I think there's more to gain out of that than to this thing that we're doing up here.
Yeah, I see.
And there's always going to be a place for it.
I think
on the right track is what I'm saying.
I see a migration. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, brother. I see a migration happening. For me, it was like, I just needed to get the fuck out, dude. I was in Los Angeles. I was an executive chef on La Cienega and West Hollywood and all over the place, really.
Where were you in La Cienega?
I was at the Nice Guy for a little while. I did the Nice Guy for a few months. And then I was
when were you there? What year?
I was the second chef there, so I don't know. I took over for I forgot the dude's name. John Carlos, I think, was the guy's name. I took over for him.
So met, man. I think we met because
Probably.
James and I sampled the Nice Guy several times. We brought in Kumpachi and sampled them.
It was in the
they just
early.
weren't on our vibe.
They didn't give a fuck, bro. That was one of the places, like when that kind of started. Look, here's how you say about leaving to connect. This is really why I got burnt out on Los Angeles. I'm from Vermont, which is a farming community. By no means are they like the most sustainable place in the world. They wear that mask, but there's still issues there. There's issues everywhere. But in Los Angeles, I was like, when I went to Los Angeles, I was like, oh, there's this beautiful farmer's market and everything's available at your hands and everybody's farming. The reality is that like it kind of becomes a show there, and there's not and there's not as many people that really they understand that food comes to the farmer's market and that came from a farm, but they don't understand whether or not it should be growing, what the growing practices are, and whether or not that farmer is really benefiting from that process. And so for me, like, you know, the Nice Guy, and then I was at this stint at Nice Guy was short. I was also, when I was in Los Angeles, I was in the midst of like just fucking self-destruction, enjoying West Hollywood as much as I could and partying. But then I went to when I left the Nice Guy, I came and lived in Oaxaca in 2015 for like 8 months. I spent just chilling and checking out the scene and checking out the food and the culture and really trying to understand, after, you know, having already been in the kitchen since I was 13 years old until that point, which was, I don't know, however many years ago, but I wanted to explore a bit. And so I went and explored in Oaxaca. And when I came back to Los Angeles, it was like, the fuck am I doing? So then I went to Pally House in West Hollywood, then a consulting, and then I just went on to do consulting, and I was being called back. So the escape was necessary for me. I don't think I can function in cities anymore. I'm not really built for that shit. Once you get out, a guy like you as well, I think that once you get out and you feel that, like you said, it just feels like weight on your shoulders constantly, no? So
it's too much. It's the race, and call it the race for a reason. It's like you can get caught up into it, and then if you fall for it, it'll get you. And if you don't have like a core group of family or friends to kind of pull you back down to like, hey, you're getting a little too much LA, or it's getting to you. It's very easy to self-destruct and burn out and just lose your mind and drown in that sea of what LA does to people. I've seen it more than a couple of handfuls on chefs or people that just get eaten alive by it. You know, my family and we moved up to Venice Beach. I got a job as an executive sushi chef on Abbot Kinney in Venice. I mean, again, I owe that because I never would have met James and him become my business partner. But we lived in Venice for a while, and I just was like, this is unsustainable. Like, you can't, this is stupid. I don't get what's the fun of this? Like, going somewhere and taking an hour just to go run an errand or go shopping. It's just the fact that we just live on top of each other here and there in LA is just, it's not for me. And I don't know who enjoys it. It's not fun. It's not. It's not down south.
No, I think it all just draws back to ego. No, and we all have ego, and I'm not saying that like specifically people that, you know, live in LA are egotistical and for that reason they're there. We all have ego, and it all gets drawn out of us. Like, there was some part of me that wanted to be part of that scene, I think, deep down inside, and there's still some reminiscence of like, you know, going out in West Hollywood and being at the dopest parties around the dopest people. And I mean, you know, for example, what the Nice Guy is. And that's where I was the chef of. So there was a lot of doors that were open to me that a lot of people didn't have. And that, for the time it served. And again, like you said, you met James in Venice, and for that reason it was great. I will never take away that the time there was valuable for me to learn about myself. It took that was a great leveling for me, and that was the beautiful part about it. But coming down here to Mexico, you know, Oaxaca specifically, it was to get the fuck away as far as I could. And the funniest thing is that I came to the furthest reach to get away, and now that furthest reach is becoming where everyone is saturating. Like, Oaxaca's now just won the best food destination in the world. It's exploding, much different than it was in 2015. And now Puerto Escondido is essentially becoming the next Tulum. And it seemed, the weirdest thing to me is like, Baja is so close to all of that noise, and somehow the southern part of Baja stays pretty protected. No, like pretty. There's obviously the tip, the Cabos, where they're like a little bit more money and a little bit more spring breaky, but still it seems almost like a more. I don't know if it's a more adult type, a more mature type scene is the right words to use, but it seems a bit protected. No. A bit more conscious. How about conscious is a good word to use, I think.
Conscious is a great word. And I think like the Los Cabos party scene it ran its course, right? And I think that generation grew up, and then the younger generation, because of Mexico being so in American term, like getting so crazy and oh my God, are you scared going down there? And that thing kind of took over for a bit, and it kind of mellowed Cabo out, and it was more for just like big money kind of people. But the people that went down there to work kind of understood like, wow, it's really nice here, and we have really good ingredients we can get, and man, we can do something like Flora Farms. Like they went on this mission that you can grow all your stuff on site and do things that, you know, you can't do here in the States or in Mexico City. And I think they kind of like went, wow, we've got all this, you know, even though we're in this really busy part of down by the ocean, there's all this land that we can actually get really good produce and connect with the land more, even though there's massive hotels around Cabo. But if you drive an hour and a half north, good old Todos Santos is right there. And I've seen just a change in those Todos Santos in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's changing. It's developing, right?
For sure.
Still be a small surf town. Like Cabo's too big to pull those people into it. And Todos Santos is there's people that are still wandering that want to go cut through on the way to La Paz if they want to go to La Paz. I got to say, I think Todos Santos is one of my favorite like towns down in Southern Baja. And La Paz is so quiet. I love La Paz, but Todos Santos offers a little bit more like surf style, relaxed kind of thing. But at the same time, really good food. Really good.
And yeah, in you know, there's just bouncing around that southern tip of Baja seems to be pretty easy and pretty fluid. And the one thing, look, my end goal there is Cabo Pulmo. Like it's a very protected community, and I want to be there, and I would love to have a project there completely off the grid. But I also want to lay down some roots in a place like Todos Santos first, and so I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm going to be close to you guys. You know, we're going to be able to
keep me posted on what you're doing.
I will, for sure.
I've been talking to my wife and my kid about Mexico, and like maybe it's time. Maybe it's time we, instead of taking the equity that we got out of this place, you know, I've been in my space here in Huntington for like 10 years. Maybe it's time to take the equity and not think about here, think about South. And it was Ensenada. Yeah. And then it was more of like, maybe Todos Santos. Maybe Todos Santos is the spot. And not just in the sense of like living there, but almost working down there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I come from a sushi chef background. I still have dreams of like, maybe I am going to open my little sushi joint and do it again. But I wouldn't do it here. I wouldn't do it here in Orange County. I wouldn't do it here in Los Angeles. I would do it somewhere down south.
Yeah.
It makes sense, you know?
Dude, it's a fucking retirement plan. You know what I mean? Like I will never not be creating something, and I will never not be working to make change. And so I just have to line myself up with where I want to settle in 100%. And where I'm going to feel comfortable and feel like what I do, can gain some traction, not for myself, but for those that I want to help, because that's really my main goal right now, is just trying to affect change. And if we're stuck somewhere where people aren't really consuming or understanding what we're doing, and it's really hard to get a message out from Puerto Escondido, for example, you know, just dealing with media and all these, they have to be special trips that we have to take care of. And so I really, that's what I'm looking at, you know, like I'm visualizing you in your little sushi spot behind the bar. It's like, it's no stress for me. I'm not opening restaurants to win awards. I'm not opening restaurants to pack the house. I will never make another restaurant in my life over 20 seats. 20 seats is way more than enough for me, and I'm good, bro. Yeah. You know?
I'm excited. Please keep me posted what you're going to do. I love the idea of Todos Santos, and you know, James and I, we've separated on we're going in different directions as far as in business, not in life. You know, we're still like thinking about what's the next move for us, what's the next thing for us, because we're so aligned, and I think I consider you as well. Like, we all have the same goal, and the same goal is to create like a collective of people that are like-minded, that see the destination of being one, leaving a place better than you found it. And that's, planet Earth, and changing business and what the perception of business is, and how to make money, and not from the land, but like as a steward of the land and the ocean, right? There's going to be people that want to buy fish, and I have no problems with wild fish at all. But as I found in aquaculture, there's a space for it in the conversation as far as chefs, right?
Yes.
And there's really, like any farm, there's great farms and there's bad farms. And I feel like maybe like my goal, my purpose, and like you were saying, like there's like instances and things in life that lead you to the next path. And I feel like all the stuff that I've done in my past, being a sushi chef and being in LA and all that, all led me to this space, which is sustainable aquaculture. Secondary, Baja, and my love for Baja, my passion for Baja, and how much it just, when I get there, I feel better. I feel like I'm at my best human form when I'm down there and I'm cooking, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel any of that when I'm up here. I can never touch that how I feel when I'm down there. I feel like I'm immersed in something that's just like this thing that almost is like this blanket that I feel like better about everything of all aspects of life of being in Baja. And you can tell I'm craving that, because I need to get back to my roots. And I'm Mexican. I'm the worst Mexican. My Spanish garbage. But I'd rather be down there and just immersed in, half the things kind of fly over my head what people are saying, but I'd still be down there in a heartbeat more than being up here and making, tens of thousands of dollars a week. And it doesn't, that's not my goal. My goal is to be down there and to figure something out of like what the next chapter is. And when I see guys like you, see kind of same thing, not running away, but just going, nah, it's better down there. Then I say, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in that feeling. And then, James and I talking about like, when's the next time we're going to La Paz? And when the next time we're going to Todos Santos? Like, I think we all get it. I think we've all come to the conclusion that it's a better lifestyle, and it's a better way to raise your child.
Absolutely.
You're very smart. You're very smart. Congratulations of having your kid, by the way.
Thank you so much. What a crazy month it's been, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. That first month is nuts. I've got a 9-year-old, and he feels it. He feels when we go to Mexico how it's better. Why is it better?
Yeah, the energy. What brought because I don't really know too much of the story. How did you and James get together, and how did that business is the business that he's operating now the business that you guys started together? How did that start, and where did the drive come from, and how did it play itself out like up to this point? Because you guys both work in the same field, but now in different businesses. So
I'll make it as quick as possible. That was
it's all good. We got time, bro. We got time. Okay. You can. I'm chilling.
And I'll try to make the story better. So I was exec chef in Venice, and it was the hot new restaurant in Venice. And I was the new chef. And so the next door restaurant was the best restaurant in Venice. So I had all these hopes, and I moved my family there, and I was fully invested. So one day, James and his business partner at the time brought me a hiramasa. And it was he just came in and was like, hey, we want to give you a fish and see, what you think about it. And I was like, okay, awesome. And he was like, do you surf? I'm like, yeah, I do. And he was like, we should surf sometime. And I was like, yeah, we should. I'm new in town. I'm from Huntington. He's like, dude, there's all these really good spots. We should go surf. And anyways, let me give you this fish. And I was like, okay. So I cut the fish, and he came back the next day, and he was like, what do you think? I'm like, it's good. It's great, actually. I'm going to start using it. So I started buying hiramasa from them. And then one day he came in with a kampachi, and he was like, look, this is another farm I started working with. I know the owner very well. It's out of Baja. It's fully sustainable. Told me all about it. I cut that up that night. And then it was just me as this white guy. And all I had were these older Japanese guys. They came with the building when my business partners bought it. So we sat down and ate it, and we're like, wow, this is really good. And we decided I was trying to go to more sustainable as well. I was buying our own fish. I was going to LA I buy all of our fish, and I just wanted something more chef focused. As far as me going and picking out the daily selection, I wanted to get back to those roots. And so we really enjoyed it. And so I started asking James questions like, so what's up with this farm? It's great. This Kampachi is incredible. This is a really, are you going to get rid of the Haramasa? And he's like, I'm going to go with this for a while. I'm like, okay, cool. And so we started surfing and he was like, hey man, do you want to go with me to La Paz and meet the farmer? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So we went down to La Paz and I met Terry, who's the owner of which back then was Rancheros de La Paz and then became Omega Azul. And we hit it off. And then I found out my business partners in Venice were absolutely batshit crazy, which I knew they were. When someone throws money at you and you have a family and even the red flags kind of go off in your head, like I shouldn't do this project, but they threw so much money at me that I've been there. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about, especially in the restaurant industry, bro.
Yeah. It's probably the most money I've ever made in my whole life. So I jumped ship. I don't think I signed a year contract and I think I only did about 10 months. I think like they did everything wrong that you do at a restaurant. They wouldn't pay their vendors. They fired people. It was bad. So I left and I think James called me in the next like 2 weeks later and he's like, hey man, I've been talking to Terry about the Kampachi thing. And I really think we should start thinking about importing it into LA and being the sole distributors of this fish. And I was like, that's an interesting like angle. And he's like, let's get together. Let's have dinner. Let's open a bottle of wine and let's write down everything you hate about buying fish from the vendors, the purveyors here in LA. And I was like, shit, you better make it 2 bottles of wine. So I wrote everything down. This is what I don't like. This is what could change. This is what I think could be a better way of like cutting out the middleman and telling the story, because this is a very, very boutique fish. And there's going to be all this people saying, well, I can just buy yellowtail. So how do we do this? Well, it's about telling the story. So we put a business plan together of importing it, picking it up and going and going after the biggest guys here in LA. So that's what we did. We set out, we leased a refrigerated van and we just hit the streets every day and started doing what he was doing was just basically the fish was the business card, right?
Yeah.
We got like $25,000 in inventory from Omega Azul. Was like, here's my investment in you guys. Here's free product. Go give it to us. So we just Johnny Appleseeded this Kampachi out to everybody. And, I had chef friends and James had chef friends. So we targeted all the top dogs in LA and we got everyone on Kampachi. Like we basically walked it into Wolfgang Puck's at the Hotel Bel Air and gave him a fish and was like, this is this boutique fish that we're selling direct. And it resonated with people. They really liked it. And then sooner or later, we started getting invited to these big LA bash parties promoting our fish. And everybody hated us as far as vendors. Santa Monica Seafood, all these, they just hated us because our approach was, yeah, we can sell fish. Anyone can sell fish, but can you tell the story? So I bring my knives and I'd break a fish down and show it to people. And people were like, wow, we've never seen people cut fish, that are selling it. It was just a different angle. And it just got legs. It just grew and grew. And we had all the best restaurants in LA, Venice, Santa Monica, Malibu, everybody. And then we did an organic, an event and Livestrong Group, which was, do you remember Lance Armstrong? He had that bracelet, that ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember that.
Livestrong.com. So they had a group and they really liked what James and I were talking about. And they said, hey, we really are, there's a big thing about farm versus wild fish that this conversation and we've got a budget. We'd love to come down and see your farm. And so we put together a trip and we thought about, well, we can rent hotels and do this, but what if we just get a boat? So we rented a catamaran and we brought the gal, the vice president of that company, a camera crew, and we just got a catamaran and we put them on this boat and we sailed around La Paz for 4 days and we barely touched land. And we just said, if we're going to immerse you in La Paz and tell you why, this is what it's for. It's for the ocean. We want to show you about ocean. We want to tell you about like industrial scale fish farming and what that is. And What this is that we're going to show you is boutique. This is about this is about the cause. This is about sustainable. We're not just selling fish. We're selling you a message, and this is like the big conglomerate and these guys that are purse seining and the bycatch and all that. That is considered farm. What we're doing down in Baja is considered farm, but there's two different types of farming. There's this large scale that is contributing to mass die-offs and populations just going extinct and disappearing from the globe. And here's what we're doing, which is a very boutique, very small focus thing that's raising a great fish in waters where it's from, and how we've taken a brood stock of 500 fish and how we've turned it into 500,000 fish. This is the model that we believe in is the future. And they came with us, they filmed it, and then they did like a 15-minute video that hit, and it went viral and it went crazy. Then Zooey Deschanel, the actress, started contacting us, and we just got all this really people that were like-minded and grow it or know it, and all these people that are just talking about farming methods and how it could be better started kind of getting on us, and it just kind of caught fire. And so and we had challenges with the aquaculture project as far as fish not being enough that we were harvesting, and it just, the model that James was thinking about was how can we get this fish to the regular consumer, because we still need to tell the story to the consumer. The consumer that goes in the restaurant is not going to get the message from the chef anymore, because just not, we wanted to connect with more people. We're connecting with chefs and buyers at the restaurants, but we wanted to connect with the consumer more. That Livestrong thing gave us like the idea, like there's more people we can connect with. So how do we do that? And then James was talking about, well, we should build a box. We should build a box of like-minded farms out there that, no antibiotics, no terrestrial proteins in the feed, like all full transparency. We started looking at that. And so we started actually bringing on other species of fish to Omega Blue. And then that was another up for us as far as our business. And then we came to a realization of like, well, you're going to go in this direction. And then that's when Pacifico started knocking on my door. Like, hey, Omega Blue is incredible. What you and James have achieved is just, how are you getting on these menus? How are you getting on these menus of these people that we don't even have access to? And we were like, you got to put the work in, man. Like, you've got to be one, you got to build relationships. You can't just throw money at stuff, man. You got to, like, if you're not genuine and it's from the heart, that's not how you're going to do business. Right.
Yeah.
Our approach to it was different. So Pacifico came to a thing where we would see each other at these food shows, and they're just like, we need a chef. We're going to offer you this thing. And James is going in his Seatopia thing. And so we just decided to kind of divide and conquer. And for two friends that are in business to dissolve a business and still be friends is really difficult. Like super hard. Where we would see each other at the same thing. They'd be like, so you and James aren't together. Omega's no longer, but you guys are still friends. Like, wow, this is incredible. You guys are weird hippies, but great story. And people always like, what happened with you and James? I'm like, nothing, man. We're dividing and conquering. Like, the idea is to still, our business in LA had kind of run its course as far as ability. And then of course, King Kampachi came in and really, King Kampachi undercutted the hell out of us. I mean, I don't mind telling the story. They met with us and they're like, look, we want you to come work for us. And we're like, no, it's not what we're going to do. We're not going to jump ship with our business partner just to come to you, just because we know you're going to undercut the value of Kampachi. Yeah. So that was like the beginning of the for Kampachi as far as importing into LA. And then he did his thing, and which was a great idea. And I don't know if you've seen what he's doing, but all compostable boxes, compostable tea bags, like just high elevated shit.
I bought some of those bags actually. I asked him where they were getting them from because I was like, yo, I have in Puerto, I use a lot of modernist technique in Pirata, and of course like having a vacuum sealer helps, but I refuse to do it because I refuse to use any plastic in my kitchen whatsoever. And I got those bags. I can't cook with them, but I can ferment in them, and it's really great. Yeah,
the idea was to like, how can we just get out here and do more and see more people, even though we're not working together. Because I talk to them daily, every other day. It's a movement, man. Like this is not just because we're not in business together doesn't mean we still don't have our eye on the prize. The eye on the prize is tell the story of boutique aquaculture. Make the movement still last. Resonate with chefs that are like-minded, like yourself. How do we unite and spread the gospel of sustainability, of being kind to the ocean, being kind to the earth, all that stuff? It's not dead. It's I would say more than anything, it's like it's gaining more traction. I see it when I see guys like you, and I see guys even in LA that are like, I'm not using plastics, and like this is not going away. We're here, and we're not going to stop like telling the story of like, no, we can do this better.
Yeah.
If we're doing this just out of the fact that we want more money, we've already know what that leads to, industrialization and all that. Like, but there are new goods and services that want to be more sustainable. And it just says like the compostable IVP bag, that's going to be everywhere soon, right?
Yeah, it's super fucking easy.
The cost will come down, and there it is. Now it's a new thing. Now the company that doesn't use it, we're like, what's your freaking problem, dude? It's just like the gasoline engine. Like,
yeah,
we have the electric engine. The fuck are we doing? Everyone has to use a fucking electric engine. What are we doing? It's not that we don't have it's not that we don't have the technology. Bitch, we got the technology.
That a few people profit at the top from this. You know what was interesting to hear, because this is the first time I really heard that story, and like I've talked with you before about farming and why. I mean, we all understand why farming can be bad, and you stated it in the story that you just told me, that there is concerns with a lot of types of farming, and in not just in fish but also in produce. And I love the way that you guys, I like the term Johnny Appleseeded the fish out into Los Angeles. It's perfect, really. But do you find it a problem? Because I do. It's a double-edged sword, the fact that it's becoming trendy to be sustainable, so to speak, because there's a lot of people that are using it as a marketing term and aren't really practicing what they preach. And for guys like you, it seems almost that there's not a way to differentiate. Like you were saying, there's two different types of farms. Like, how do you find yourself differentiating between just being a farm and being the farm that we need for the future, when everyone is just making noise saying that they're doing the right thing? Like, do you see a future where those two things get delineated and we lose the shitty farming, not just in fish, but in all types of things, and we just have this one track? And like, how do you communicate that message? How do you split yourself apart from those other guys?
I think the thing that James and I always said when we met people, and we still say it, is like, the only way of it going away, not going away, but everything is about the dollar. Everyone votes with their money, right? The people vote with their dollars. If they're willing to spend money on something, then that thing stays in business. And if you can make a movement by saying, don't put your dollars for that because you're voting for that type of business, is okay. And that's kind of like, that's the one angle that we've ran with, and I'll still continue to that, is like, every time you're buying a product, you're voting with your dollar and keeping them in business, right?
Yeah.
So how do we find the people that are doing it the right way and kind of make it so the money goes to them? That's the only way I see it, like, really getting to that point. It's a collective effort from everyone that really is conscious about it. They have to vote with their dollars to keep them in business. That's really the only way.
And building a community. I think that you guys, like, it's a really cool story, and I hope that like more of your story and the way that you guys operate can get out, because it is important to pound the pavement as well and not be quiet. Like, I see a lot of people shying away from calling out problems in our industry for fear that they might not get diners, or that they might not get awards or acceptance. They might not be on a list. And this is what perpetuates the problem. And now that cooking has become cool and the restaurant industry has become cool, it's very, there's guys in LA that eat off this shit, that eat off this farm to table. It's bullshit. It really is. It is. And there's guys all across the world. Let's not just say LA, but just from reference. And And speaking out is the most important thing in the world, being fearless about that. And again, the other important part that you guys have addressed is cutting out that middleman. I find that the middleman is the most toxic part of the industry, because it's actually someone who has zero connection whatsoever to the product and is just pushing to take a dollar.
Absolutely. It's prostitution. It's whoring at its finest, right? These people have no connection to the product. They don't know shit about the product. They don't care. They're just trying to hit their numbers and get their bonus. I get it, but I don't have any time for those people. And they all, the one thing that I've learned being on this side of being a chef, but now jumping to being behind the other side, which is being in fish sales, is all those people do is jump trains, right? All they do is jump from one company to the next, right? And their mission is to just sell, make their bonuses. But those people will die out eventually because we have no use for them. And even the restaurants and even the aquaculture people that are growing see that we don't really need these people. And as logistics gets better and we can get stuff to anywhere in the world now, you'll see like those middlemen to start kind of like dying off. And I even see it now. Like there used to be really good middlemen, really good like fish salespeople that knew everything. Most of those guys came from like kitchen background and chef background that knew their product. The guys I see now that I meet with, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like you're not even authentic. Eventually they'll get phased out, right? And we'll have to ask more out of them. Like you can't just come and give me a price list tell me a little bit more about the product. Why do you like it? And that's going to be the future. You're going to have to be well versed. And I think, and I've seen it just because of COVID. I think we're going to see less vendors having like 200 types of species of fish to strip that down to maybe like 40 to 50 species of fish to get really a lot more like specific. They'll sell one type of salmon and they'll sell one type of jack. They'll sell one type of tuna and they'll sell a couple of types of things and not try to get this portfolio of 200 fish. You can't do business that way, man. It doesn't make any sense. It's not sustainable. Because the culinary world's going to change now because of COVID. Everyone's shifting to a different thing. What's that going to be? No clue. But I know that business, I've seen and heard the way that business used to be done just a year ago is it's getting rewritten. It's getting rewritten right now.
Yeah, and I think that what you said, which is like part of you guys' game as well, is in probably the most important piece to that puzzle is logistics. No, because logistics, when I think it's hard for people to understand the system without being in it. So for example, when there's a Kampachi farmer, he has to put all of his time and effort into farming. And so what traditionally would happen is somebody would find this guy. Lucky for this guy, it was YouTube, but the majority of the time it's some guy who just wants to pull his shit in and sell it for as cheap as possible, or buy it for as cheap as possible and mark it up 4, 5, 6 times and take the money and run. And logistics are an issue because we don't have the cold chain is the hardest part of this whole process, correct? So how do you guys approach right now? Is Pacifico Aquaculture like uploading to distributors in different regions? Is that how you guys are handling your logistics at the moment, or are you doing direct sales?
We truck everything in over the border and it goes in our hub in LA. And we try to consolidate as much as we can so we can do ground travel. But the fact of the matter is that, people want stuff in New York. People want stuff in the Midwest. So that gets put on a plane and gets, flown into certain places. That's just an unfortunate kind of situation we're in because we've got like 6 million pounds of biomass. We got to get fish out of the water. They need homes, right? So until then, it's going to be business as usual. But it's the thinking that we need to change. Like even Pacifico knows that it's coming to a head that we need to fix what's broken, and that's logistics. Logistics, counting on planes. Like when COVID hit, like Southwest had 7, 8 flights a day, right? Southwest went down to 3 flights a day. United stopped flying to over here, and they stopped flying over here. And then in Europe, they weren't sending stuff over here. So things just shut down, right?
Yeah.
And everyone started realizing like, oh man, this is going to be like this for a while. And then you saw things skyrocket of things, and then people weren't buying anything. So everyone had all this inventory to figure out. So everyone started re-looking back at what's the problem? Logistics. And I think is the one thing that's going to save our asses is the electric vehicle. We get electric vehicles on the road delivering stuff, man. Now we're onto something.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big help. And it's funny because I read how to rebuild there's a book called How to Rebuild the Food Shed. The guy he's a teacher. It was written from somebody in Vermont. It's kind of a textbook on how to rebuild or how to disassemble the issues that we're having. And a lot of it was just plain common sense. And the way he translated logistics and the movement of product was into energy. Like, for example, instead of saying, oh, it's in a car and then it's in a plane and then it's in a gas, how much energy did it take, like including human energy, how many units of energy it takes to get one piece of whatever, a tomato to fucking northern Vermont from northern Mexico, for example, like how many units of energy and hands did it have to pass through? And I find that for example, with fish or with meat, there can be some exceptions to the rule. And of course, we're not going to stop enjoying and indulging in things. I don't expect that that's going to be the case. I just think that if we can practice consumption better and think about how much energy goes into what we're consuming and how much energy we're getting out of it, the reality is that the majority of the shit that we eat, there's more energy put into producing it than we are turning it into. And that's really the problem at the base of all of this. So I don't think, look, I've thought a lot about and read a lot and researched a lot about fish farming. I do think that because of the fact that we're not going to stop indulging, it is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
But there should be more regulations enforced. There's regulations and there's a difference between enforcing those regulations. No?
Yeah.
Do you guys play, each country has its own set of rules, I imagine, about fishing. Do you guys, how is that organized in your mind when you look at, because as I see it, the majority of the guys who are farming fish, for example, are probably capitalists, probably run by capitalists who are really interested in making money. And they're like, how can we cram the most fucking fish in this net, regardless of all of the things that are important, like the waste and how it's going to be flushed out and where it's settling, how deep the water is with the fees. How do you guys process that when you think about, how you're going to move into this next generation of really setting yourself apart from the rest of those fish farms?
The way that even the Campeche farm and aquaculture, Pacifico Aquaculture, is they're playing a very long game. And most of the aquaculture projects are playing a very short game. Is how can we get the maximize of the space? How many living creatures can we put on top of each other in these pens until we have to introduce antibiotics, right? How much growth can we get out of this animal until, it's time for the harvest? And what can we feed them to get them as fat as possible, get the best, amount of fat on them or protein on them until we can sell them? That's what I think old industrial farming was. And I think now there's different regulations in different countries. I think in Baja specifically, and I think this is why I fell in love with Baja so much, is the Mexican government understands what they have. They have some of the best regions and water and sites out of the world to do fish farming. But they understand that there's really no reason to go and pollute those areas just to make a buck. They see aquaculture as to showcase their country as this thing. Like, look what we can do. Look at this. Look what we can do, and we can do it better. We know what they're doing in China. We know what they're doing in Korea. We know what they're doing in United States, and how much legal red tape there is. Well, what if we did it differently? What if we did it more from a conscious mind of like, yes, we want to grow and feed our people and give people our jobs, but we also want to protect our environment, because we see what's happened. We've seen what overfishing does to populations of wild stocks of fish and how it can put regions of families out of work, right? So how can we do produce an aquaculture project or product that's incredible, but at the same time maintain our standards of taking care of our environment, taking care of our people, and produce a very good product. Mexico is I think, at the highest echelon of those farms. Now, there's the guys in Norway that are doing those salmon farms, but salmon's a very relatively easy fish to farm. They'll kind of eat anything, and you can do in brackish water or freshwater, whatever. It's very easy. The farm site for Pacifico is on a protected bird sanctuary island, protected by the government. You can't mess with those guys. They kind of are the law of the land as far as what we do with our farm. We get regulated heavily by the Mexican government as far as our nitrogen buildup, where the poop goes. That farm site was selected as such because of the currents and being 8 miles off the coast. And then we have that cool deep water canyon that flushes all that water out. And then the government's like, if you have to basically introduce antibiotics, that means it's antibiotics getting into the fish. Well, that fish could die, and then that's antibiotics in the water. We don't want that. So your density of your pens has to be very, very low. So the ratio of our pens is 2% fish to 90% water. That's the long game, right? Yeah. This is a farm that can last forever if we choose, right? We're only selected as many pens that we can physically produce fish in that area. The Mexican government that you're capped. That's as much you can go. Put it into your numbers, and this is what you're going to be able to do per year. That's what Mexico can do. If it's aligned with, of course, business, they're going to take their chunk off the top as well. Yeah. But they understand they want to be the shining example. And that's why we searched out to find those right aquaculture projects that here's a prime example of what you can do. How can we take this model and go replicate it somewhere else in the world? Because this works. So that's why I got into aquaculture was you were talking about the tomato traveling to the other side of the country. Yeah. I shouldn't be fucking eating tomatoes coming out of Vermont. I should be eating fucking tomatoes coming out of fucking California. Right? Yeah. I should be flying fucking branzino from Europe all the way over here. Let's eat something that's a little bit makes more sense than flying over there. That's the problem we got ourselves into as human beings. We started getting stuff because you can, of getting things from anywhere because you can fly it and someone will pay for it. But I think it makes more sense from a perspective of eating more local because you can produce anything anywhere. We got into this habit of pulling stuff from all the way over here because you could, but not understanding the impact that we have of just that one tomato. Like you said, the energy expelled or used to get that tomato over here makes no sense. And that's what I think Mexico kind of figured out. Is look, if we can grow this region, we can hit this Texas here and California, and we can push here. And that's what we want to do. But we're not talking to Asia or any of that stuff yet, because that doesn't make sense to us from a standpoint of we're a sustainable company. If someone wants to send containers and stuff over there, that's fine. But we're not going to put stuff and send it all the way over there because they got branzino, man. But that's their shit. That makes more. That's what we're going for.
You want to know where I think this mentality? I blame chefs 100% for this mentality, because this is a realization that I had, and I tried as much. The last project that I worked on, a consulting project that I worked on in Pasadena before I left, I tried to really embody as much as I could this idealism of of living in symbiosis with what's grown around you, and only using products when they are in season, meaning not using tomatoes in fucking January in California just because they're at the farmer's market. And so I realized that the way that I was taught to create, and the way that all chefs are taught to create, is that they think of an idea and then they bring in all of the things that they need to create that idea. And you'll see some chefs say they go to the farmer's market and they get inspiration from a thing, and then they bring all the other things in. It's no. I don't want to create that way. The way I want to create anymore, the way I want to create now, and the way that I made myself create by putting myself in a fucking remote place in the middle of nowhere and only working with the farm from there, was I challenged my brain to say, I'm only going to use what's here, and that's how I'm going to create dishes. So the farmer dictates what I am making without my influence. I'm not asking him to grow shit. I'm not asking him, not bringing in seeds, nothing. Whatever he's got is what I'm doing. That's how we need to be working in order for us. And it truly is, like, in large part because chefs were the ones giving indulgences to people. And so when we taste a truffle, and now we've got a group of guys who are distributing truffles out of the back of their car, and everybody wants to buy them, and then we've got to find a way to sell them cheaper, and then we've got to find a way to get shittier ones, so putting them in truffle oil and doing all this stupid fucking shit just so we can have a taste of it. It's a snowball cycle. And the thing that sucks about it is that then you lose. Then when you go, for example, to fucking Italy, and you've never been to Italy, but you're an Italian chef in the United States, you have a preconceived notion about what you're supposed to eat and how things are supposed to taste, and you have no fucking idea, and it's lost its magic already. If you're a consumer that can just get everything in their hometown that they believe is Japanese, Chinese, Indian, French, Italian, then they feel that they don't need to leave. They don't need to explore. So then that region loses its shine a bit. And I think that that's where food needs to be. That's where it needs to be consumed. And product is the same exact thing. Like, your fish, for example, in Valle de Guadalupe tastes much different than it does in Chicago. 100%, right? Like, regardless, there is degradation in the product, regardless of whether or not, it's a huge degradation. There is degradation in the product. So I think that if we can embrace the beauty of the space, we'll all be a lot better off. No? And then the cool thing that fucking happens in that system, I think, and this is my anarchist brain working, but the cool thing that happens in that system is that then you don't need to ship the shit outside, because then more people need to buy local products. So they start buying the local fish, and they start buying the local tomatoes, and they start eating things that they might not have eaten before and consuming in their area and building economy. So
I agree. I totally agree. I agree with you 100%. Like, I think that's what happened. I think it just got out of control. I think the decadence of the 80s and 90s just kind of drove this narrative that, like, the stuff that's more exotic and hard to get is going to be better, and it's going to make your food taste better. It's like, whose idea was that? And how did that keep spiraling? How did that keep gaining traction? And what are we doing? It's not sustainable. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think the cool thing about this thing right here, the phone, is that people can get information and learn about stuff and make choices in real time about, like, fuck that. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to spend my money in that kind of thing, because that doesn't make sense. I'm hoping that mentality is going to keep moving. I hope that, and I see it. I think people are getting more educated on what they put in their bodies, the costs, and the person that I'm buying this from, are they making more off of it than the person that made it and grew it? Because if they did, I'm not dealing with that. I think that's the mentality that's going to save our asses. Like, the whole eating local mentality and taking care of the person. I think that's resonating with a lot more people. I know it is with me. I understand what led us here, and I see what's going to get us out of trouble. And it's like I said, it's like a movement of people that go, no, you guys you're missing the point. Like, and it's like, and it could be with anything, like textiles and shirts and all that. It's like the money that's invested in to get it to your door doesn't make sense if the person that's fabricating or making it is making less money than the person that's actually selling it to you. That's the problem that we got ourselves into.
Yeah. And then now we're creating a culture, or we have created a culture, which I hope reaches a glass ceiling of, it's a double-edged sword, the access to information, because now a lot of people can just look shit up and become a chef overnight without any qualification. A lot of people can go to school for fucking 2-3 years and become a chef as soon as they get out, instead of putting the years in dedication into understanding how the system works. Because now it's very easy. Like, it's super fucking easy. If you want to open a restaurant if you want to open a restaurant in Los Angeles, you can have 7 days a week food delivered from all corners of the globe, whatever the fuck you want. And people are more than happy to sell you that product at a price that's absolutely ridiculous, and sit back and pretend that they are connecting you with people that they care about. The reality is that they work with too many fucking brands to know all the people that that they're working with, you know? And so look, it's the other thing is it's difficult. The other thing is that because this new generation doesn't want to work the same way the old generation did. Like they're too tired to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the beach and get fish when the fishermen come out of the water, for example, or to go to the farm and shovel some shit and learn about how things grow and pluck the products, or deal with changing the menu when a product doesn't come in. They want to sit back and relax. Well, we need more work. I do think that COVID shook things up a little bit. I do think that it gave us a look at how our system is flawed and what we need to do and how we need to be more reliant locally. So, I think this applies, and I think that this applies a lot more. Like, look, we consume way too much fucking protein. Animal protein in reality, right? So the one thing that we can do is, I'm starting a plant-based taco concept, not because I'm a vegetarian or a vegan or I don't believe in eating meat. It's because I believe in limiting the amount of protein that we consume. If you come to my tasting menu concept, you're going to have 2 plates that have fish out of 10 courses. And one of the plates is the fish and the other plate is all of the other shit made into something that I can use all of the products from that fish. So I think that we need to start consuming in that manner. And of course, in that case, the quantities will shrink that we need to produce. And I mean, there was a lot of kill-offs that happened during COVID. There's a lot of overproduction. There's a lot of problems. And hopefully the models like you guys can be looked at for the future as well. And you guys can kind of draw those things around the globe. And I know that's a battle. So.
Well, because you're talking 40, 50 years of being force-fed this idea of what going to the grocery store and buying all your stuff, like what that looked like. That's hard, man. Just like plastics. Plastics is a new thing that's only 50, 60 years old too. And look how just part of our life it's become. It just happens. So, we don't see it coming. It's just a thing. You're like, wake up and you're like, fuck, everything's made out of fucking plastic. Holy shit. No. And then like, we'll get you the recycling bin and you can put all your plastics in there. And then you're like, oh, cool. I feel good. Cause those bitches aren't recycling. That plastic's not going to get recycled. It just goes into, just because a special blue bin says recyclable, you think it's going to get recycled? No, they lied to us. They lied to us straight to our faces. That little thing with the number that's got the arrows. Oh, it's going to be recycled. It's not going to get recycled, man.
Yeah.
So that's coming from the top down. And, that takes a whole couple generations to like kick that habit. So that's what it is. Like you and I start with our kids. Like, hey man, quit buying all that shit. That's too much plastic. You stop that shit. That's just going to landfill. Oh, it is? Yes. So we're not buying that. Like, I'm not voting my dollars for that. That's just how it has to happen. It's got to perpetuate. It's the cycle's got to be killed off. And a new like vision of how we're going to live our lives is going to have to start. And I think COVID kind of lifted the veil of like day-to-day things of like, well, this is how much we need to do because the market dictates what we need to produce. And we just started producing. And then when the market goes freeze and we're left with all this milk and produce and proteins and all this stuff that just no one wanted to buy, no one wanted to get, like the powers that be were like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? Like we've been doing this for so long and we're already doing something that's from now today that we're producing is not going to be ready till 2 years from now. You can't just pump the brakes on and stop the brakes and have it. Like we're still another year of like coming to grips of like how badly we fucked things up, how COVID just really screwed like the whole business industry in a whole. I mean, everybody on a business level got hit hard by like, oh shit, we produced this stuff and now no one wants it. We got to figure it out. Like we need to go rethink about how we do business now. that was the one thing that COVID's going to provide of those manufacturers or people that are producing stuff like, hey, maybe we don't need to produce all this shit all the time. Maybe we're the one that's like, maybe the demand's not that. We're just hoping the demand is out there.
Yeah.
Like we're going to supply it, but if the demand falls from the consumer, then things change. And that's what COVID's going to do to those people. Like for instance, Claim Jumper, as far as like a business entity or like the 300 seat or the Cheesecake Factory, you have 40-page menu. Like that's not sustainable. That's a stupid concept. But for some reason, people thought, oh, this works. This is packed. And you had a 2-hour wait at Cheesecake Factory. Well, it's not sustainable. It's not. That's a fad. That's a thing that's a thing that's going to be here for a short amount of time. But all that stuff and all that preparation and money spent to think that this was a viable business like empire just got slapped down. Next, see you, Cheesecake Factory.
That's where I think that
Claim Jumper.
I think that those people were victims of another really unfortunate thing that's happened in the food service industry. And I've heard this from a very young age. And I will tell you that the customer is not always fucking right. And very rarely are they actually right. If they have worked in the industry, maybe they're right, but generally they are not. And the problem that we have is the same problem you have with children who you just give whatever the fuck they want whenever they want it and put an iPad in front of them instead of entertaining them, for example, is that you just have a society that wants, and thinks that they're going to get. And now we've created Yelp, which is going to fucking talk shit if you don't have what they want, if it's not cooked right, if it's not cooked the way they think it's supposed to be cooked. And that's why those restaurants existed with a 40-page menu. You're fucking, what the fuck could you possibly need that many items for? A, and B, do you think that if a consumer, and maybe an average consumer thinks that it's cool, but if you walked into one of those kitchens and saw the shit show that exists in there and the shit all over the floor and the amount of garbage that they produce just to create you specifically what you want, from fucking fettuccine Alfredo to sushi rolls on the same menu, that shit is fucking odd. And look, we play a role in this. I think that chefs and restaurateurs play a very critical role in this. Do not give them what they want. Create a concept because you love it and stick to your fucking guns and grind it out. You are going to get, people are not going to like what you do. It's inherent. Like, not everybody's going to like hot dogs. Not everybody's going to like hamburgers, but you have your lane. Stay in that fucking lane. Don't try to give everybody everything they want.
Yeah, you can.
I had on this tip a little bit, I saw, so, McDonald's, for example, the fast food companies are now going towards Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat and shit. I was just Googling, I look up random shit. Could see my Google news feed, this came up. PETA was suggesting the best fast food restaurants to get non-animal products. And on that list was fucking Burger King and McDonald's. And so Burger King and McDonald's somehow, by taking care of the customer first and giving the customer what they want, got PETA to fucking write an article about how you can go and get a Beyond Burger. And when I tweeted to PETA and said, what the fuck is this shit about? This is comical. Their response was, every time you buy a non-animal product, it proves that they can sell a non-animal product. Some bullshit made up excuse. This is the world that we live in. The world that we live in is that, like, if you can appease a person with one single thing, it doesn't, and you can make $1 off that one single thing, go ahead and do it. We'll do everything. We can be everything for everyone. We should not. Right. We've lost specialty. We've lost boutique, which you guys are filling in these gaps. But I really need the fucking cooks to stand up here. You know what I mean? They really need to be held over the coals. And I am guilty of doing things that are unsavory in the past and using some of those practices, and I have to evolve as well. I do now. I'm fucking super adamant about what I do and the way I live, and I believe everybody has to be that way. Yeah. So
people don't want to take the responsibility. I think they just I think it's easy now just to tune out and like, whatever. I'll just it's not that big of a deal. Like people just need to I think, come to the realization like their consumerism is, it's a double-edged sword. You spend and don't think about what you're doing, then you're caught in a cycle and you don't even know it. You don't even know that they're playing you. You've been like deprogrammed. You've been reprogrammed of just like spend, consume, but don't think about where it's coming from. People don't understand or care where their stuff is coming from, who's making their products. And that's the disconnect. We're disconnected, man. We're disconnected from the earth. We're disconnected from the ocean. We're disconnected from the sand. We wear shoes all day. Not many people walk around barefoot anymore. That's crazy. We should. You got to connect with the earth. People we're losing our true selves as far as like we're just on a spinning rock in the middle of the universe, man. That's all it is. All we to learn is how to talk and wear clothes, but we're still an animal on this planet. And somehow we think we rose above the animal world and we're this new thing that's kind of dictating how the world goes. And I think Mother Nature's always willing. She's got that bitch slap waiting for us. oh, you guys think you're running shit? COVID, boom. Or maybe, I don't know, like there's always a bitch slap waiting for us as human beings. Yeah. Like we've got it all figured out. Mother Nature just comes and just plants a good one on us. We're like, oh my God, we're not in control. We're not that significant as we thought we were. We're due. We're due for another bitch slap pretty soon. We got to get our shit back together. We've got to figure it out. Like the things that we own are now starting to own us. The way we do is starting to kind of encroach on ours, and the world's getting smaller, and it's just, I don't know, we're kind of losing our way. But like I said, I think there's a group of people out there that are really going, we can do this better. We know we can do this better. We're just lazy and fat. So how do we get people off the couch to like make better decisions? It just starts with going, one person. It starts with one person. Hey, dude, why are you eating out that shit? That shit's nasty. What do you mean? Don't eat that McDonald's shit, dude. You really, that was, well, I ate it as a kid. Well, okay. Now I know when I have a kid, like McDonald's is not a thing you eat every week. It's not a thing. Yeah. It's not a meal. It's not dinner.
Yeah.
That's a special treat, bitch.
and that's the harsh reality of the situation is like, we just abused the right to have nice things. Like, you can have treats. No one's saying that you can't, and no one's saying that you shouldn't. And or modernization, I should say, is necessary. Or maybe it's not even necessary, but it's not a bad thing if it's utilized the right way. The problem is that we want a fucking IV drip of likes and Instagram followers, and we want fucking cheeseburgers and birthday cakes 7 days a week. We cannot do that. We should not do that. We have to understand what we're impacting. If we think about the way we consume, and like I said, the energy that we put in to or has been put into what we're consuming, I think we can come out of this thing better. But it does start with the community, and we're gonna start a commune in Todos Santos.
I was gonna get back to that. So I was gonna say, so what's going on in Todos Santos? When do we go to Todos Santos? So when do you think you're gonna move? Like what's the timeline you're looking at right now?
Well, I'm gonna see you in July for sure. We're leaving. We're planning to leave in we're planning to leave in July and drive to Vermont, where I'm from, in the car with the baby. Okay. And on the way, we're gonna stop in Baja and check out some land. Then we're gonna go spend some time up with the family in the Northeast for 2 months, and then drive back. We're getting a rooftop tent for the Jeep, and then we're gonna get a little trailer to tow back with us when we come back, and we'll just live in that bad boy off the grid for a little while on whatever piece of land we come up on. So
you're basically gonna drive back down from Vermont, come through as basically LA in California.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna come up through there too, or I think that what we're gonna do is go to like San Felipe and then out through Phoenix, and then when we come back, my plan is hopefully everything will be back to normal, and hopefully VIA Food and Wine Festival will be happening again. And
I'm hearing you're talking about October. I'm hearing that I've seen emails, threads of them saying this might be the year to pull it. They feel pretty good about it. I haven't heard anything, and I think I am the connection to what's going on. But I'm hearing that it's probably going to take place.
Sick. So if that's the case, I'll be there.
It's outdoors. I mean, it's an outdoor event, so it makes a lot of sense. We're not in cramped quarters. So I think if I know Javi and Carolina, they're gonna make it happen.
Come on, guys. If you're listening to this podcast, make it happen.
Serious. Like, let's and then if that happens, like, we're gonna hang out. But I think we should speak more about this Todos Santos thing, because I think I'm jonesing for another project, and I think I'm jonesing for a project in Baja. I think that's my next. I mean, there's yes, my wife kind of gives it the thumbs up. My kid gives it the thumbs up. I give it the thumbs up. I'm due to go out there and create something, and it's with like-minded folks like yourself. You know, I think we need to like support each other, and like, of course, like I said, anything you need, man, I got you. It's
I appreciate that, brother. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's build culture down there. Well, I'm going to sign off so we can both get back to the family life.
Yes.
Stick around for like 2 seconds after I cut the clip. But before we get out, just like real quick, is there anything that's coming up with Pacifico Aquaculture? Where can we find you? Where can we find those products? Where can we find photos, videos, all that stuff, hashtags, whatever you want to sign off with?
Okay. I think, we're doing the Facebooks and the IG, the Instagram thing, and that's, that's a normal thing. I'm trying to come up with a super frozen sushi kind of thing that relatively is kind of like the hamachi on the market for sushi chef things. We've got, we're in Whole Foods and the usual suspects, Gelson's. We're working on like a portion. We're just working on a really nice portion for the consumer. And I can't wait to go back. My thing is to go back and connect with chefs again, and hopefully get it so they can, the one thing about aquaculture is you can build a menu around it and not worry about like what's in season, what's coming out of the ocean. That's the one bonus we do. And hopefully I can go and help chefs go like, hey man, I can get that to you all year round and make it worth your while to buy it. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and sitting in this house all day and doing emails. I'm not, like I said, I'm not built for it.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to get in touch with you, I'll make sure to put your info in the show, your Instagram and all that good stuff in the show link, so they can get in touch and get some of that beautiful product in their kitchen.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Beautiful connecting with you, brother. Stick around for just another second here after, but really, really beautiful connecting, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chef. Always good to talk to you, brother.
Talk soon, brother.